So if the UK government is cutting its climate finance, then this is disappointing, but it's also risky. This government, when it was elected in 2024, went along to the UN Climate Change Conference with its pledge to hit net zero, still the only solution we have to climate change, and it signed up with all the other wealthy, but historically high-emitting countries to trebling global climate finance from $100 billion a year to $300 billion a year. The Conservative government previously had committed to paying £11.6 billion over 5 years. That's about £2.3 billion a year. That is a lot of money, of course, but in terms of the overall UK public spending, it's actually less than 1%. And if we did treble that, then it would probably still be less than 2%. But the fact is, this is not charity. Even if you don't care about the moral case that historically high-emitting, developed, wealthy countries should be paying climate finance, then it is an investment in our security and our well-being as well. The government's own national security assessment warned recently that climate change and biodiversity loss globally would run the risk of the UK not being able to feed ourselves. Former Lieutenant General Richard Nugent said recently that the UK has to work abroad in order to protect the UK from threats that come from abroad. And that's part of what climate finance and the overseas development aid budget from which it comes are about. And that's why it's an investment. It's an investment for three reasons. The first reason is stability and security. So you've got poorer developing countries around the world paying more and more to cope with and recover from expensive climate change driven disasters and extremes. It's making them more unstable. They're unable to afford to pay for basic public services. And with insecurity comes instability. Our supply chains for everything that we buy, almost everything that we buy, come from all over the world. Clothing, electronics, furniture, cars, the materials that we use to build our houses. The greater the instability, the more expensive those supply chains become, the more expensive the things we buy in the shops become in the middle of a cost of living crisis. And the second reason relates to probably our most important supply chain, which is food. 2/5 of our food comes from overseas, and about 17% of that comes from the countries most exposed to climate change risk and least able to cope with it. Climate finance, some of our climate finance, directly and through big global climate funds, goes directly to help farmers in countries that grow our food that we import into the UK. And often this is food that we can't grow here. It's bananas, it's coffee, it's tea, it's rice, it's lots of fruit. It's things that we rely on being able to import from overseas. That climate finance supports not just those farmers' livelihoods, but also our food security. And then the third reason is that public finance leverages private finance. The government will say that they're going to provide more money from the private sector for climate finance. Okay, but how, when, and how much? Without those answers, this is just rhetoric. There are some great ideas out there being discussed around international tables. Taxes on some of the biggest and most harmful companies and individuals, on fossil fuel extraction, on global financial transactions, on private jets, on luxury yachts. All of these things, it's been calculated, could raise hundreds of billions of dollars globally for climate finance. So fine if we're going to go down that route, but we haven't heard that yet. And finally, there's just a trust point. The UK sat around the negotiating tables at those climate talks and made that promise. If we don't deliver on that promise, how can we expect our word to be trusted in the future?